Welcome to the brand new Mission Critical podcast. My name is Darren and I'm here to help introduce episode 2 of my dad's series, 5 Reasons We're Going Nowhere. We are presenting Let's Flip the Script on Structure, where Dad critically looks at problems with today's current traditional structures and how a change can benefit us all. This episode was recorded on June 30th, 2021. Enjoy the second episode, and please don't forget to share your feedback and comments on this episode. You'll hear my dad say this at the end too, but take this as a friendly reminder.
Let's flip the script on structure. The greatest revolution in mission today is a structural revolution. Now, don't stop the podcast. It doesn't sound that exciting, but it affects every one of us. The last time we had a structural revolution of this magnitude, I believe, was in 1792 when William Carey, a young man in England, started what's known today as the first modern parachurch mission organization in the world. And when that revolution happened, it ushered in a new era in mission where tens of thousands of organizations, new types of structures, were used by God to take the gospel and to take humanitarian help and justice to the ends of the earth. Now, I think we're entering a similar period, and we really need to pay attention to this. Social media users nowadays number in the billions. The largest companies in the world used to be oil or industrial companies. Now they're platforms. New platforms, combined with a new breed of leaders driven by the overwhelming complexity of today's challenges, will drive a structural revolution in church and mission. And it will affect every one of us. Now, remember, in this podcast, we're here to provoke a conversation and to provoke an openness in you to participate in this revolution, not to be afraid of it. In fact, even if you wanted to, you can't escape it. If you're part of a church, if you're part of supporting or you're in some kind of outreach organization, if you're running a business that you see as something that God has given to you, if you're a Christian professional, you're going to be affected by this, probably already are. But you need to understand that this is a good thing. It's going to turn your world upside down, and that is a good thing. Now let's look into it a little bit. I would like to suggest 3 problems with today's current traditional structures. And those 3 problems will help us realize that, you know what, we need something new. Now let's go into the first one. The structures of today, the nature of those structures, are not big enough. We do not have the ability within traditional structures to bring together and to coalesce enough energy, enough resources to bring us to the point of breakthrough with the biggest challenges that we face as a Christian community in the world today. Today's organizations are not big enough. I did not say that we need bigger organizations. In fact, we do not want bigger organizations. I'll address that apparent contradiction in a few minutes, but they're not big enough. Second, the organizations and the kinds of structures we have today do not give opportunity to the right people. Because of the way organizations are structured and how we enter into, how we apply, how we climb the ladder, all of those things that organizations have that create boundaries, that create definition to the structures of today, while on the one hand they help that organization be effective and focused, there's a huge downside to that. What it does is it keeps out of the loop, it keeps out of participation billions of people that should be involved. And number 3, today's structures are too donor-driven. And I don't mean that we don't need donors. Donors are part of the kind of people that God brings into the mix to help things happen. Donors are very important. But in today's structures, donors tend to be gatekeepers. The larger organizations get most of the money, and we end up with this sort of winner-take-all kind of situation where a big percentage of the money is driven into a few organizations, which become bigger and bigger. And what that does is it creates a situation where donors who tend to be outside of the realm of the problem that they are wanting to address end up driving the decisions. So organizations become donor-driven rather than driven by leaders who are in the middle of the problem that they are trying to address. So 3 problems with today's structures. They're not big enough, they don't give opportunity to the right people, and they're too donor-driven. So what can we do about that? I would suggest that the revolution that's already underway is leading us towards some of those solutions. So we see the revolution as a real as a godsend, as something that God is bringing about to unleash an entire new level of participation and effectiveness in the global church. Okay? And this does affect every one of us. So let's look at the 3 solutions, or we could call them sort of 3 aspects of the solution that are going to show us that this is an excellent time, a time to get excited about what God is doing and bringing about. First of all, the traditional structures I would call or put them in a category of superstructure. A superstructure means top-down. It's led by a CEO or a president or usually one individual that works under a board of directors, and it has staff and it has employees, and it's structured somewhat like a pyramid. So a superstructure is top-down. If we're going to mobilize a new generation in a completely new way to a whole new level of effectiveness, we need what we call infrastructure. The platforms of today, the technology that has emerged, is allowing us to enable or to build platforms, to build structures that are bottom up. We call those infrastructures. We're familiar with the term infrastructure when we talk about roads and electricity, and communication systems. We've had those for many, many years. If you look at a road infrastructure, the road doesn't tell you that you have to drive on that road and go a certain place, but it enables you, if you want to use that infrastructure, to get from A to B. You decide how to use it. It gives you a bit of a structure to enable you to do that. That's what infrastructures are. They're bottom-up, facilitating to help people who have a vision for going somewhere to get there. So today's structures are infrastructures that will enable a lot more people to participate. Let me add 2 more things to that. Second, the solutions that we are moving toward move from a centralized model of leadership to a decentralized model. If we're going to change the world, we need to get a lot more leaders involved. But if we're using the old method, the old superstructures, there's only room really for 1 or 2 leaders at the top. And there's a limited amount of superstructures. But infrastructure sort of creates a seedbed, an environment that can nurture leadership at every level, in every community, and bring that leadership together into relationship with each other to create a global or a regional organism that can change the world in a way that we've never imagined before. So this type of infrastructure allows and enables decentralized leadership. And the third thing is that we're able to tap into what we call excess capacity. Some of the most successful platforms today are platforms like Airbnb and Uber, who tap in to what we call excess capacity. Excess capacity is that ability in the Christian community for us to do things, but that ability that has not been used yet. It's sitting idle. We have a massive excess capacity of money, intelligence, time, skills, and knowledge that is not being used in any meaningful way. So this solution, this new type of infrastructure, will unleash a massive new revolution in resources that will enable us to do so much more than we've done in the past. So let's review these three solutions. We move from a superstructure to an infrastructure model. We move from centralized to decentralized leadership. And we tap in to an enormous amount of excess capacity that we've never been able to reach before. Now I see three benefits coming out of this. If we want to look at it strategically, there's three benefits. First of all, by having an infrastructure that enables decentralized leadership to access massive amounts of new resource. Just dream with me what that means, okay? Here's three things that it means. It means we are able to achieve something that's been elusive in the past, and that's what we call critical mass. It's that tipping point. It's that ability to combine resources beyond what any existing organization can do and bring those resources to work together, to be coordinated in an intelligent way to reach that breakthrough point. Imagine the big issues in the world today, whether it's refugees or poverty or treatment of women or different kinds of injustice and the challenges of training and discipling people in churches across the world, whatever it might be. We need the ability to combine our resources in intelligent ways beyond the ability of any existing organization to do it. That means structure. That means a structural revolution. We are blessed incredibly today by having the technology and the opportunity to actually do that. Now, the church tends to be a little bit behind the curve. The scientific community, the business community are already exploring and exploiting the technologies available to us to do things that we could never have imagined before. We as a Christian community need to catch up. And we need to realize that changes to how we work together are not a problem, they're a blessing. The second benefit here is total participation. With this new kind of structure, with this type of platform infrastructure that can be available to us, we can engage every single Christian person in an intelligent way anywhere in the world and bring about total participation. And number three, resources. I've already mentioned this, but it's worth mentioning again. The amount of excess capacity of resource available in the church is daunting. And we can bring that together through the technology and the platforms that we have. Now, you may be thinking, some people are afraid of technology. It's like we're going away from what God wants. We're going away from what He's established for the last 2,000 years. But you need to remember, think back with me, that in the time of Jesus, before William Carey introduced his structural revolution, Jesus introduced a structural revolution, and it was called the kingdom. The concept of structure that was behind the kingdom, I would call it a movement. That movement, that structure that Jesus introduced, upended the religious structures of its day, and the world changed. Now imagine with me what this change means in our world today. I believe that with this structural revolution that is happening right now, churches will slowly be replaced what I might call missional communities. Because we can no longer afford to simply play church, to run churches as professional top-down structures as we have in the past. We can't afford to do that anymore. It actually hollows us out anyways. We need to become missional communities that engage and relate to the communities around us in the name of Jesus. As outreach organizations and mission agencies, I believe we're going to become more and more localized. We'll look more like localized initiatives connected with each other, joining hands in regional and global networks. But we're not going to look like the typical organization anymore. These decentralized initiatives, the projects, the teams, they're going to be more fluid, and they're going to relate not to traditional structures, but to fluid relationships and needs as they arise. So these new initiatives are not going to be forced or feel like they have to be the top-down superstructures of the past. They can exist in their own right where they are with decentralized leadership. But that doesn't mean there's going to be chaos. They will be coming together because of the technology and the platforms and the revolution that we're having today. They can be coming together in collaboration and yet have this kind of decentralized leadership. What about businesses? I think businesses will participate in new exciting ways, not just in funding generation as they have in the past, but in skill and services sharing. They'll be much more holistically integrated in what God is doing in the world. And Christian professionals, I think they will be living in their professional contexts, being the missionaries of the future, being the frontline workers of the future. They won't be outside of their professions, they'll be working from within it. So I would challenge you, embrace this and get ready for an incredible adventure that lies ahead of us. Embrace the change because it's a change for the better. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mission Critical. If you enjoyed it, please send in your comments. From time to time, we'll have an episode dedicated to addressing our listeners. Please subscribe and share with your friends and family. And remember, life is short. Live with purpose.